This was seen as a pretty revolutionary idea at the time. Built in 1951, the Convair V-2C Dart was supposed to be the first jet fighter to land on water, regardless of the body of water available. It also became the first seaplane to break the sound barrier. However, the Convair Sea Dart was short-lived, just like the pilot who tested it. After a fatal crash, its project was officially cancelled. Goodyear's concept was to revolutionize the way commercial airplanes could be transported from one place to another. Almost the entire cockpit of this plane was supposed to be made of rubber, except for the control cables and the engine. When deflated, the plane was supposed to fit into a 1-meter-long box. Despite being fully functional, Goodyear wasn't able to convince the U.S. Air Force to invest in it. This aircraft used a pivoting wing that rotated at an angle to offset airflow disturbance patterns. The idea of a pivoting wing wasn't necessarily new at the time, but it wasn't implemented until the A-1 pivot wing. Despite the fact that it flew successfully on several occasions, its project was eventually suspended. Modern drones, however, are currently being developed according to the A-1 model. At first glance, the Vought V-173 looked like some sort of helicopter, and to some extent it actually was, even though it needed a couple of minutes to become airborne. Designed to take off vertically, the V-173 wished to be used on aircraft carriers. However, its project was eventually cancelled due to limited demand. On the upside, the Vought V-173 is responsible for the invention of the Harrier jump jet. Built by Bell Helicopters, the Bell P-39 Airacobra was a highly maneuverable fighter that for some reason had the engine positioned behind the cockpit. This design gave the aircraft an unusual center of gravity, making it difficult to control. As a result, some P-39s crashed without being fired upon during combat. This aircraft was capable of exceeding speeds of 3,000 miles per hour, causing its surface to glow bright red due to the friction from the air. Despite it, the Blackbird has remained to this day as one of the most impressive aircraft ever built, and the reasons for its retirement remain a mystery. During its years of service, the SR-71 could not only travel at amazing speeds, but also reach the edge of space with almost no danger for the pilot. The Convair Pogo had a rotor attached to its nose cone, that would lift it vertically into the air. Similar to a rocket, the aircraft would take off nose first, with the canopy pointed 90 degrees upward, putting the pilot in a strange position while ascending. Despite having successful test flights, the unusual capabilities of the Pogo led to its eventual demise, as its project was deemed unstable. After its first test in 1959, the X-15 was on the path to establish itself as an aircraft of the future. It measured 51 feet in length, yet it had two small wings on each side. The X-15 was coated with a nickel alloy that prevented it from burning while passing through the atmosphere, and it was capable of reaching altitudes of over 100,000 feet, classifying some of its tests as space flights. Nobody really knows the reasons behind its cancellation, but there are speculations that it could have been due to its lack of maneuverability. During World War II, engineers at Goodyear designed a reconnaissance plane that was a light bomber, and was capable of making long flights over enemy territory. However, the problem with it was that it featured a single wing, a tail bloom that had an engine on one side, and a pod to carry the pilot next to it. As strange as it sounds, this aircraft was so well designed that it inspired a modern sport aircraft with a similar design. Designed as a cross between a houseboat and an airplane, this giant floating flying machine was supposed to be the first transatlantic airliner in history. Although it took off successfully and reached a height of around 60 feet, it crash-landed shortly. Initially, the inventor, Caproni, announced that he would repair the aircraft and try again, but the wreckage was later burned.